Hi guys, so today's video is for National 5 Practical Cookery, and our practical lesson today we're going to be making chocolate chip cookies. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of theory into this lesson as well, because this recipe allows me to explore a topic that I'm really passionate about, and that is sustainability. Within our units of practical cookery, you are going to be covering what's called understanding ingredients, and for that you need to be able to know where your ingredients comes from and why that's important. And so for me, this is a really great opportunity to explore sustainable ingredients, particularly local ingredients. So let's get started on a bit of the theory first before we get into the practical activity. Sustainability means the ability to be able to produce, in this case, foods for future generations without impacting how those future generations can produce. So for example, a good example of that is when we go to fish. There's only a certain amount of fish in the sea, but if we continue to fish to the extent that we are at the moment, then we're going to deplete the oceans of our fish stock, which means that it won't be able to regenerate and produce enough fish again for future generations. Okay, so that in a nutshell is what sustainability means. For us, we need to be thinking about lots of different aspects in terms of the environment, in terms of our local industry. Are we supporting our industry, or are they not going to be able to survive if we don't spend our money wisely? And our own health as well. Is it beneficial for our own health to be using better ingredients, more local and nutritional ingredients? Okay, so I'm going to talk you through the ingredients that we're using today, and I'll back that up with the theory that we're just covering. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the ingredients first of all here. And obviously you don't need to be sourcing the exact same ingredients, but for me this lends a great opportunity to discuss, as I said, sustainability. So starting from this side, you're going to need half an egg. I'm going to discuss with you how to half the egg later on, but you can see that these eggs are British. So we can say that they are locally sourced. They've not come from abroad. That means they've saved on air pollution and transport. You can also see that they are free range eggs. That means that the animals have been kept in better conditions. Okay, so that helps. The fact that they are free range, this is helping us to sustain animal welfare. Okay, making sure that the animals are treated fairly. Okay, be aware of that when you are buying eggs. Try to look for the free range sign. If it doesn't say that, then generally they are caged or battery hens and have a poorer quality of life. You can see I've measured into my bowl here 50 grams of the brown sugar, and I've left the packaging there for you. Again, you can see that this is Fairtrade sugar this time. So that means that the producers, the people who have grown and produced this sugar, get a fair pay for their day's work, because in a lot of countries where sugar is produced, the working conditions are a lot harder and they maybe don't earn enough money. They don't have the same conditions that we have and the same rights that we have when we work here, like pensions, like hospital care, like schooling, that sort of thing. So fair trade is an important sign to be looking out for, and that helps to sustain local communities. Okay, I've gone for British butter as well. You could use the margarine option if you wanted, and there's 60 grams of the margarine in the bowl. My dark chocolate, now I know the recipe that you're working with says milk chocolate chips, but because of the lockdown, this was what I was restricted to buying. Again, you can see the chocolate is the fair trade option there. So again, the cocoa has been grown sustainably and helping to support the local communities in that area. Okay, you're going to need 80 grams of the chocolate chips. The self-raising flour I've weighed out, and that is 110 grams of the self-raising flour. And again, you can see that this is a British product, so it has been grown and milled in this country, so that helps to ensure that it's not being transported. We're cutting down on fuel emissions, on carbon footprints, and we're supporting local communities and employment in this country. And that, as I said, 110 grams there. You're going to need 1.25 mils of table salt, and again you can see that this is a British product here. It's not been flown in from abroad. Alright, you're also going to need a 2.5 ml spoon of vanilla essence. I've gone for the organic vanilla bean paste. And again, this helps with sustainability because if it's organic, that means that there are no chemicals, fertilizers, pesticides, anything like that that's been added, that's been helped to help the plant to grow. So this means that there's no chemicals on it, helping the environment. Alright, so all of the ingredients that you see in front of you today are helping towards sustainable food. Alright, so to make this recipe you're going to need, first of all, your baking tray with your greaseproof parchment paper there to stop your cookies from sticking to the tin, a cooling rack for when you're finished, your kitchen scales for weighing and measuring accurately. You'll certainly need 2 bowls. You will need your spoon for measuring your ingredients in, a round bladed knife, and that's for cutting up our dough at the end, our fork for mixing our egg, wooden spoon to combine our ingredients. We've got a 1.25mm spoon here and a 2.5mm spoon here, your sieve, your oven gloves for safety, we're using the oven. I've got 2 small cups here and you'll see why we're using them shortly. And then again, talking about sustainability, I am reusing and recycling my Grand's flour dredger there. Alright guys, so here's where we get started now. We're going to start learning some more skills and techniques as we go. So in my bowl I've got my brown sugar and my margarine or butter, and we're going to cream this together. Now what creaming means is to incorporate the sugar into the fat. What that does is it encases the sugar granules in the fat, so when it comes to cook, the sugar expands and we end up with some nice light air pockets in it. Okay, so wooden spoon, and at this point I see a lot of people holding the wooden spoon like this and stirring and pushing the butter and the sugar around. That's not going to help you get anywhere fast. So what I'm going to ask you to do is hold the wooden spoon down at the bottom. Okay, so you're actually going to be pushing the butter against the side of the bowl, making it into a paste, and then incorporating the sugar into that butter. So we're breaking the butter up as we go and really pushing that sugar into it. It does take a wee while, but it will take a lot longer if you are using the tip of the wooden spoon and just pushing the butter around the bowl. Alright, so we're now ending up with a paste. This is our creamed butter and sugar, and you want to keep going until all the streaks of butter have disappeared. There we go. Alright guys, so that is your mixture creamed together. So our fat and sugar is all incorporated. That's all we need to do for that at the moment. I'm going to put that to one side, and then I'm going to show you how to half an egg. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to half the egg now. This is where the 2 cups come into play. What you're going to do is you're going to crack the egg and put the egg into 1 cup. Now I've made a mistake here already. I should have had a paper towel at the side for my egg scraps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these straight away to the bin and going to wash my hands. Okay, so this is what our fork was for. I'm now going to just beat the egg so it's fully combined. Okay, and now it's a case of just using your eye. You're going to equally proportion the egg between the 2 cups. Okay, so I would say that's about half. So into the egg now I'm going to combine the vanilla paste or essence, whichever you're using. So that's 2.5 mils goes into that, and again give that a quick stir around. Anything that's handled the egg or been in contact with the egg you need to then remove from your station and wash. Okay, so stages so far is we've creamed our butter and sugar together, and we've combined our egg and vanilla, and we've halved the egg there as well. Next thing I'm going to do is sieve the flour into our butter and sugar mixture. And the reason we sieve is to get air into our mixture. It helps it to be light and fluffy. And I'm also going to add in my 1.25 mils of salt. Again, we want it to be level, not a heaped spoon of the salt. Right, I'm now going to mix this thoroughly and combine the dry ingredients. This will look quite dry to begin with, but remember we have our egg mixture still to add. What we're looking for is a dough that we can roll out and shape. So we don't want it too dry and crumbly, like at the moment it is, and we don't want it too wet and sticky. So this consistency now is kind of like wet sand. I can hold it, I can bring it together in my hand, but it is going to fall apart. So it's going to need something just to bind it a bit more. Okay, so now we're going to gradually add in the egg and vanilla mixture. A dough now that we could handle, and it's going to hold its shape. So at this point I'm going to get my hand in and use the heel of my hand to push it down to gather all of the bits of the mixture. And you can see it's starting to clean the bowl as we go. It's collecting all the bits from around the side. Alright guys, so now that I've kneaded the dough, I've brought it all together to form its dough, we're now going to add in the chocolate chips. There's quite a few in here, so we really want to make sure that they are well incorporated. So again, I'm going to get my hand in and push these chocolate chips into the mixture thoroughly. Now that's all holding together again still. I'm going to lightly dredge the surface with flour, and the reason I'm doing that is to prevent my mixture from sticking to my work surface. Okay, so just a very light flour dredging. When I see people doing this at school in the classroom, they tend to be a little bit heavy-handed with the flour dredger and put about an inch thick of flour on the surface. You really don't need that. It's just a fine dusting on the surface, just to prevent it from sticking. Okay? Right guys, so what I've done here is I've incorporated my chocolate chips into my cookie dough, lightly floured my surface, and now I've rolled it out into a large cylinder shape so that I can equally portion my cookie dough into 8. This could be part of your exam technique as well. You're generally asked about portioning equally, so we're looking for 8 equal sized cookies out of this. So cylinder shape here, what I'm going to do now is cut that in half as best I can, because these chocolate chunks are going to want to pull it apart, and then again each half into half, so we've got 4, and again each quarter into half, so we have 8 pieces. Now because these are falling apart a little, what I'm going to then do is just quickly re-roll them. What's going to happen when we put these into the oven, which by the way my oven is set at 200 degrees and centigrade that is, and that's been warming, the fat in the biscuit mixture is going to start to melt, so these cookie shapes are going to start to melt down and expand. So we definitely want to make sure we have enough room on our baking tray for these cookies. They can get quite big. Alright, so 8 equal or roughly equal shaped cookie balls. So the next thing we're going to do then is just space them out as evenly as we can, making sure they've got room to grow or spread. I might need another baking tray here. And if you want to pat them down, that's fine. Make sure you're using your oven gloves. You might want to get somebody else to help you open the oven door at this stage as well. Okay, and now these are only going to take about 8 minutes in the oven. They really don't take long at all, and they will look soft when they come out of the oven. Okay, So they're only going to take about 7 to 8 minutes in the oven. You'll see them start to melt and be quite soft. When they do come out, they will still be quite soft, but they will harden up as they cool on the cooling rack. I've set my timer here, or I'm just about to, for my 8 minutes. So that will tell me when to come back and check. Again, you might want to use your phone, there we go, or your watch if at all possible. Alright guys, we'll see you when they're out. Alright guys, so that's my timer gone off now, so I know that my cookies are ready. I'm going to take these out of the oven now. Now they've not flattened out as much as I would have liked, but then I didn't really push them down that much before they went in. But I know that they're ready because they are going golden brown around the outsides and they are still a little soft and squidgy in the centre. They will firm up a bit as they cool. So you can see I put my baking tray down there onto a cooling rack, onto a pot stand, sorry. And now what I'm going to do is use the right tool if I can find it, a fish slice, to very carefully remove these onto the cooling rack. And now that's important because the tin still holds an awful lot of heat and they are not going to cool down nearly as fast if they're sitting on a hot baking tray. Whereas if we put them onto the cooling rack, air is allowed to circulate underneath and all around and allows them to cool down a lot faster. Okay. Alright guys, so that's our finished cookies there. Now just to recap all the skills that we've learnt today. Today we talked about weighing and measuring. We've talked about safety, using oven gloves in the oven. We have demonstrated creaming butter and sugar together. We've sieved in the ingredients. We have talked about the importance of proportioning equally. And then a bit of theory today thrown in as well. We talked about sustainability and the importance of using local produce to cut down on pollution, to use organic produce, again to cut down on pollution, to use free range or ethically sourced meats, again to help with the animal welfare, and fair trade as well, which helps to again support local communities. All of that helps us to have a more sustainable food production. Alright guys, see how you got on with those. Thanks very much, take care, see you soon, and remember to like and subscribe and leave any feedback. Bye.